Hey folks, this is Kalani. The Prototype Pantheon boss encounter was just enabled for testing on the 9.2 PTR, so we're going to see exactly how this fight plays out and how it's shaping up so far. There are 4 bosses total in this encounter. You start the fight with the Prototype of Duty and Prototype of War in play. The Prototype of Duty will use Humbling Strikes. This deals heavy damage to the tank and gives them a debuff that increases the damage of Humbling Strikes. This ability also deals raid-wide AoE damage, so you need to keep those stacks as low as possible. She will also periodically jump away to the edge of the platform and push everyone away from her with strong winds. During the winds, she'll also throw out a bunch of large swirls. If you get hit by a swirl, you get stunned and pinned to the floor with a weapon that needs to be DPS down, so make sure you dodge the swirls. Her last ability is Ascension's Call. A few of the Valkyr flying around the room will fall to the floor and create a big blue bubble. Anyone who stands in this bubble will deal 0 damage and do 0 healing, so don't stand in it if you don't have to. And then the Prototype of War is going to use Gloom Bolt. They throw out random damage to your raid, and it also applies a healing absorb effect, but this can be interrupted and should be as often as possible. You will also use Necrotic Ritual. This summons 4 adds around the room that channel into the center, creating a big green puddle that constantly expands. You need to kill all 4 adds to stop the bubble from growing too much and to get rid of it. One very nasty ability to watch out for is the Runecarver's Death Touch. This applies a debuff to a couple of raid members that deals damage over time, and it explodes for lethal damage if it gets dispelled, and it also then jumps to a nearby ally. The trick with this ability is to dispel it while the player is inside one of those blue bubbles from earlier. If the player is inside a bubble, the explosion doesn't trigger and the debuff doesn't spread. But the bubble does seem to get used when a dispel happens, so 1 debuff per bubble. So those players need to run into the bubble as quickly as possible to get dispelled to remove the debuffs from the encounter. When either of these 2 bosses reach 50% health, they run away and the other 2 bosses join the fight. This also means that you will want to keep their health as even as possible before you trigger the phase push. In phase 2, you'll be fighting the Prototype of Renewal and the Prototype of Absolution. The Prototype of Renewal will cast Anima Bolt. This targets random raid members, deals a bit of damage, and leaves a debuff that deals damage over time. This can be interrupted and should be as often as possible, just like Gloom Bolt. She will also create blue portals at the side of the room and summon a wild stampede. Little soul-shaped critters will race across the platform in a straight line. If you get hit by them, you'll take a bunch of damage and get knocked back, so keep an eye on the portals and just position accordingly. She also uses Anima Storm. This creates little tornadoes that circle around the boss. If you stand near them, you're going to take constant damage and you get silenced, so just avoid them. Her last ability is Withering Seeds. The boss spawns several wild seeds throughout the room that can be healed up. If you heal them up to full, the seed will heal your entire raid, and you get a 25% healing increase buff that can stack up to 4 times, and each time you heal a seed, it refreshes the duration. So you want to stagger these buffs to keep your healing buff up for as long as possible. If you stagger them properly, you can actually keep the 4-stack 100% increased healing buff up for the rest of the fight, which is going to be very important for that last phase. If a seed ever gets to 0 health, it dies and explodes for raid-wide damage and damage over time, so you should never let a seed die. The Prototype of Absolution will apply a stack of Burden of Sin to your entire raid. Looks familiar. This deals damage over time and there's no way to remove it, so keeping these stacks low is going to be very important. He will also use Hand of Destruction. He pulls everyone towards him and creates a huge AoE that explodes after 6 seconds, dealing reduced damage the further away you are, so you need to run away right after the pull-in. He also casts Sinful Projection, which always seems to line up very well with that pull-in. Every player in the raid has a debuff. When it expires, you shoot out 4 red balls in a cross pattern. It's basically the debuff we got from the Prideful Affix in Mythic Plus. If anyone gets hit by those red balls, they take a lot of damage, they get stunned, and they get a stack of Burden of Sin, which again is going to last for the rest of the fight. So spreading out and dodging these missiles is going to be incredibly important. And then his last ability is Racking Pain. This is another tank swap mechanic. The boss strikes the tank and anyone behind them, increasing the damage they take by 25% per stack, so point it away from the raid and tank swap to keep the stacks low. After you get one of these bosses to 50%, phase 3 will start. All 4 of the prototypes become active and you have to deal with all of their abilities at the same time, so just phase 1 and phase 2 combined, and it's a huge burn phase. On heroic mode, you'll need to kill all of the bosses within 20 seconds of each other, otherwise they heal to full. See a typical council style kill them at the same time or wipe mechanic. Overall, this boss was a lot of fun. There's a bunch of different abilities to keep track of, and you need to make good use of the helpful buffs to get through each phase as smoothly as possible. possible. It's probably going to be a bit of a mess until you learn each ability, and it does get very visually busy, especially in that last phase. A lot of effects going across your screen and a bunch of nasty damaging mechanics that you need to dodge. This is going to be an amazing fight for strong cleave specs though, but that's how the Prototype Pantheon encounter is shaping up from the 9.2 PTR raid testing. What do you think from what you've seen so far? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who subscribed on Twitch. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.